Well, where do I begin? When I spoke to Samir about this, we discussed different themes on what could be interesting for both faculty as well as for students. Yatin, if you can add Sureshji when he's available, that would be nice.
Right.
Uh,
Okay.
Now, Gayatri, Nandita, for instance, both of you are from the same School of Architecture, and you both have been very committed to green buildings. You may not have actually done buildings, but your perceptions, your insights on green buildings, on whether they cost more, whether they, as practitioners of architecture, Nandita, for instance, is your perception that, anything that you add to a building adds to the capital cost and therefore the client does not want it. You know how many of your own faculty who are practicing architects have said, well, we don't want to take this to clients because clients don't want any additional cost. What Samir is going to speak about today, for the benefit of many of the students, and we already have some 75 of them who are logged in here, is something that will tell us all how green buildings do not cost more. However, there is a catch to this. If the approach, the strategic approach, if the strategic approach is not right to design, then your building will cost more. Right? That is where I think Samir is going to speak a bit. Nandita, you are the younger one. Would you want to speak on this? Then I can ask Gayatri. What is your perception of green buildings? Do they cost more? Nandita, not Gayatri. Or Gayatri, go on, please, since it's there.
Yes, so initially when we just look at it, definitely as a layman, it definitely makes you feel so, right? You have to pay quite a bit. Right now, I'll just take an example. There's a building being constructed. When we just said put solar on top of it, they gave a quote of 7 lakhs and 4 lakhs for on-grid. So it's like, if the immediate thought which comes is like, I would rather go with the regular, BESCOM, because it all I need to do is pay 300 bucks or 2,000 rupees more per month. And very interesting narrative I heard recently. One of my neighbor, when she installed PV, and when I asked her, you did a good thing. She said, why I shouldn't have gone for it, because if the 5 lakhs I put it in my bank account, I would have gotten return much higher than what I invested. So these kind of, it's very difficult to make them realize the long-term benefit or, the operational cost and things like that. It is a challenge. And Dr. Hari knows how much we were discussing about how do we bring this change in the behavior of people or understanding of the people is a big challenge. Yeah.
Nandita, when you are working on that building, where you have this recruitment cell or whatever, you had this challenge of the management not wanting it in the beginning, and then you had to do some things to persuade and influence them. What were your snags as a practitioner?
Yeah, as a practitioner, good afternoon, everybody. As a practitioner, always till date, when I tell them we have to paint with low VOC and we'll go in for green materials and things like that, they'll say we don't want it because it is not appealing to them, one thing, or secondly, the cost, of course. They say today we'll see, after 5 years, we don't know what will happen. That is the kind of approach the clients give it. And then when we say about the savings on the energy, using the bulbs, turning into the LEDs and other things. And for that, my instance, AC also, when I proposed, initially they said, no, we'll go in for split. I said, no, doesn't work. Let us go in for 5 rated AC, so that there are so many which is there available in the market, so that in the long run, you can see it in the electric bills you get. Right. So later on, I sat with them, made them understand. Then they agreed for the inverter AC, which is working now, and then they're all happy about it.
When I first got you that consultant from Chennai, and you spoke to him, what was it that you learned that you could tell the client and persuade them to accept? What changed?
So it was drawing natural air from outside and throwing it inside.
Correct.
and removing whatever the warm air is there inside. So
Got it.
it is a natural process. That's all. We are doing that transition with the device. So when
Right.
I told the client, instead of having a gadget which gives us air, which is like can become stale
Correct.
uh, over a period of time.
Got it.
This is a natural process. Why not we go for it?
Yeah,
So we are
yeah,
doing.
I got that. I got that. I think in a sense, you're also saying what Gayatri said. Niranjan, I mean, you have spent 25, 30 years doing these wonderful things. But then when you go to the next door guy in your apartment, you don't know how to tell him what you're doing, one. Second, how he can do a few things. So how do you solve this challenge? Forget about building green buildings and professionals like builders and architects, who do things. How do you do this, Niranjan?
Myopia seems to be the disease globally. Short answer. But having said this, from what it was some 20 years back, things are changing quite rapidly today. The fact that many of the apartments have started integrating the solar and seeing the benefit of it, because the cost has come down from 24 rupees a unit, close to 2 rupees a unit, right? So if they cannot understand with this also, then I can only say there's intellectual impermeability, nothing else.
But you heard Gayatri saying that there was this lady who spent 5 lakhs and then said, well, even if I'd put it in a savings bank account, I would have got 8%. Here, what am I getting? Either the business case has not been presented to her well, or the consultant has charged her more. For example, Gayatri said some 4 to 7 lakhs on some solar installation. Maybe it was ill-advised. This is another challenge that the industry has got, that users are not sometimes getting the right advice, and therefore the technology or the solutions impact gets a bad name. Is that right, Niranjan?
Yeah, I think there is still a gap in the information flow. And I think there's a tendency to overcharge by people. And that can only be rectified when there's more competition and there's more transparency.
Right. Saurabh Verma, you come from similar context of teaching like Gayatri does or Nandita does. Knowing you would also have had some experience ground up of such costs. What is your take vis-a-vis students? How do we make them understand that there is a fantastic future here over the next 15 years? People like Samir are also employers.
So sustainability is definitely, ingrained in our MBA and BBA programs, and definitely the awareness is increasing. And I see a lot of young ideas from our young professionals coming up, and definitely the future looks good. Regarding cost, I did my research in commercial green buildings in 3 cities. And we found that there was a green premium in rents. In Mumbai, the premium was definitely more platinum rated 5-star kind of rated buildings, and premium ranging between 20 to 22% in rent existed in that market. In NCR, around 14%, and in Bangalore, around 4% premium of a commercial green office building compared to conventional building. So these kind of premiums do exist. I think people are, to do something new, people are reluctant, but I'm very confident looking at our young generation, the way the things are coming up, we'll see a lot of green activity in our cities.
Fair enough. Sureshji, we have another maybe 5-7 minutes because as we know from Yatin, some of these students who have completed the exam should be sort of logging in. I can see that it has crossed 100 as attendees go. What would you want to say in some very crisp sentences before we invite Samir Sinha to present? You have to unmute, Sureshji. You have to unmute. Yeah.
Who has made it?
Yeah, now we can hear. No, we can't hear you again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, greetings to the PJMT distinguished lecturer and Samir trying to give this wonderful talk, Jain to hear him. Very nice to get the feedback. And and particularly Professor Saurabh Verma's point of view of the premium value being given for rental, I think I very much agree with what he said over there, whether it's going to be a gold or a platinum, that definitely the value for that particular thing for the consumer or even the people who take space for lease, etc., they give value for that. For example, big companies or on the IT park side, they are asking the question, I will take the space if it is green, if it is gold and platinum. Otherwise, no. Why? Because they know very well, in addition to the rent they pay, that is the capital cost coming, your running costs for the energy, water, waste management, camp charges are an important component there. And they know that those particular values will be much lesser in the case of a green building, accredited building over there, certified building, than a non-green building there. So I can definitely agree with what Professor Saurabh has indicated, even in my innings with the Hiranandani group for over about 10 and a half years time period, also clearly showed that particular preference for that. But I think more than that particular reduction in the running costs, as two of the ladies rightly told, that the energy bill comes down or whatever, even on the capital cost level also, we made a wonderful thing. We are a 21-year-old organization, started in 2021. We are in 2022. And even though in the beginning, we were just kids on the block, maybe the first few buildings were about 18% more than a conventional building there. But over a period of time, the first 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and now we are at a situation where it is not only at par and sometimes even lower. Many reasons are there. The technologies which were there to deal with those water management, energy management, waste management, etc., which was costing a much more at an earlier point of time, you are finding a major reduction coming on the solar panel. You are aware of that. Air conditioning system, they themselves will tell that. On the water systems that there, as well as the ST plants. So that means the cost components for each of them also has come down. I'm sure when Samir makes a very detailed presentation, we'll get an idea on that. So not only capital cost, even if it is more slightly, your operating cost makes it so that more than 1.5 years time period, you're able to make up for whatever you invested more. The other one is the capital cost is still coming down in a very large way, because many of those technologies required on the walling or roofing or water or energy or whatever has also come down, because more and more of new technologies emerge. Whoever believed that 200 square feet, 1 ton of air conditioning, the same 1 ton of air conditioning can cool even up to 600, 800, even 1,000 square feet. So the whole tonnage collapses from 1,000 ton to maybe around 300 tons of air con. So many issues are there. I'm sure it's a combination of both together. So that, and I'm happy that
I get that, Sureshji. The discourse here is not so much on the feasibility and the possibility of it. It is the communicating of this to people where we are failing, and much of our own discussions, I mean, yours, mine, Samir's, and many other leaders in the IGBC or in other such segments of the green industry has been with only ourselves. It's not been with the world outside. And that's, I think, what
that's why a program like this is happening.
Yeah, Niranjan is also sort of saying that. Okay, it's 3:21. Yatin, we have over 100 participants. Maybe some more will join. Professor Saurabh Verma, do we have your permission to get started? Saurabh?
Yes, sir. That will be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Lovely. Yeah. Samir Sinha, the floor is yours. I'm going to mute myself now. Yeah.
He gets a good audience.
Give me 1 second. Let me get this oriented right.
Yes, it's visible. Just make it on a slideshow.
1 second.
Yeah, we can say it, but just make this.
He's an expert. He knows. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you see my screen now?
Yes. Thank you.
And you can hear me. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Must begin with, first of all, thanking Payal for giving me this opportunity. This is indeed a privilege and an honor to be able to present at the Prem Jain Memorial lecture series. My friend, philosopher, and guide and guru to all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you, Hari, for inviting me. Pleasure to be with Suresh ji and with Professor Verma and all the other distinguished people here. Thank you, indeed. I think Hari's done a wonderful job of setting up the entire premise. And this indeed is my most favorite topic to debate, discuss, and actually willing to argue till the last minute with anybody willing to say that green buildings are more expensive. And I will come back to Gayatri and try and validate my point. And I think the only failure we've had in this wonderful journey of green buildings in the last 20 years, like Suresh was saying, is that we have not been able to convert enough people, have not been able to educate, that we have not been able to tell our story well enough. And that is where we are failing, and that is what we need to improve. And I'm sure with this kind of effort, we will continue to do that. I want to walk you through a little bit of what we are looking at, and I want to discuss our perspective. Are we looking at the cost the right way? Are we looking at the economy the way we should have looked at economy? Are we really not being, I love the word that Niranjan used, which is my favorite word when we look at cost, is myopic view. And we're not looking at the economy and the costing and our profitability in an extremely myopic viewpoint. Somehow we have created an economy for ourselves where, like this quote says, a dead tree is worth more to us than alive. And so this whole pursuit of profit at any cost, it has to end if we really want to profit in the true sense of the word. And I will come back to it a little later towards the presentation about what is the true definition of profit. How should we look at profit? Please feel free, Hari, to stop me or to question anytime in between if you have any queries. Otherwise, we can keep all the questions.
Oh, they will all note. I'll request all of you youngsters who are listening to this to make your notes, and then please speak. If you want to speak, you can always write on the chat box and we'll enable. Over to you, Sam.
Yeah, because I only have about 20 slides. I will not make it very, very long.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I'm happy to discuss and deliberate on every point that I try to make.
Wonderful.
I think we have a great leadership in this country, which is actually looking at sustainability very differently. Life was a word that was coined by, was introduced to us by Prime Minister Modi recently. And we have to, this is something that we have even promoted at the COP27. India is taking the lead in this, and we really need to look at how do we live sustainability. It has to become more than just the pursuit of profitability. We need to change our own lifestyles. So this whole idea of consuming mindlessly to mindful utilization must happen. And I have some very good examples from my own childhood, which I'm sure all of us will relate to. I love this word that I discovered some time ago called consumptionism. From consumers, we have become consumptionists. What used to be durables have become consumables. This is a car that my father bought in 1962. He used it till 1995, at which point he sold it at a price more than what he had bought in 1962. And I'm sure somebody is still using that car. Whereas in my lifetime, I've already changed almost probably 6 or 7 or 8 cars. And I have no reason to do that. But just this whole pursuit of buying a better, bigger car to be able to drive around and flaunt it has driven me to do that. I mean, if you think about it, isn't that the same thing that we have done as a child? I remember we had one refrigerator which lasted my entire childhood. That one fridge, whichever company it was, Kelvinator or whatever, was through there in my household for more than 25, 30 years. And then we have now started consuming refrigerators. We are discarding them for no good reason. Same thing with dishwashers, same thing with all of it. So essentially what has happened is we have converted durable goods into consumable goods. And a lot of it is because of the way we advertise and the way we pursue this whole lifestyle, which is a system of belief that prioritizes consumption because the lender or the credit card company allows us to do that. And that is something that we need to think about if we really want to think about sustainable living. there is hope. There is a lot of work that is happening. I'm trying to keep this as crisp and as short as I can, but there's a lot of work that is happening in planning our cities, planning our lifestyles, planning our urban development, which is where the majority of the GDP of the country exists, into more sustainable ways of doing it. This whole idea I discovered about at the MIT Design Media Lab, where Kent Larson and Norman Foster are working on something where this whole idea of power of without. This whole urban development can be done without the conventional ways of living life. The power without grids, housing without construction, sanitation without sewers. If 20 years ago we thought about education without schools, it would be impossible to think about it. But the pandemic has taught us that that can be done. And the whole education system is probably going to go through a major transformation post-pandemic. Mobility without cars. Uber is a great example, or car sharing is a great example of how technology has transformed and has made our life far more sustainable. All the cars that were sitting in parking lots unutilized, a lot of it are now being utilized by Uber drivers, and we have a shared mobility system. So many new ideas are coming up, and I think we will have to change the way we live, because technology, data, AI will transform even if we don't, and things will become better because the next generation is far more aware and far more responsible than we have been in our heydays. The question to be asked, and I'm coming down to the basics of why are we saying green costs more, or why is this misconception there? The question I want to ask to all of you is, does it really cost more to build green? Let me break down the entire process of building construction industry into three basic parts: design, build, and operate. Answer my question. Does anybody think that an architect charges more to design a green building versus a conventional building? I don't think so. And if there is an architect who does that, I don't think we need to work with him. There is no extra effort in designing green, because if you follow the principles of light, ventilation, good living, vastu, the panchbhutas, like Dr. Prem Jain used to say, you will design a good building, and that is what a good green design is. It probably needs an involvement of a consultant or a developer to have the vision to be able to design green at the initial stage. But I don't think there's any additional cost in designing green versus designing a conventional building. It might need a little more effort, but that should be the case anyway. Is there additional cost in building green? I will come to this from my own experiences, from my own case studies that I have, to prove to you that it does not cost more to build green. Does it cost more to operate a green building? Actually, absolutely the contrary. It is cheaper to operate a green building. It saves you money. It adds value. It saves money to the consumer, to the actual end user. And I will again prove this to you also. This is what I'm talking about when I say case studies that I have from my own experience of the last 20 years of looking at constructing a green building. In 2013, when I first built my first green building, the cost difference of a 4.5 lakh square feet building built in 2013 over a conventional building of the same size was 114 rupees 11 paisa per square feet. The cost of construction at that time was about 2,000 rupees, if I'm not mistaken, was about 2,000 rupees a square feet. This was the difference, 6.3%. And this was purely cost of construction, without any, which included everything from designing to excavation, to construction, to procurement, materials, everything. And this was in the era when DGU, U-rated glass buildings, solar panels, all of those conventional grey fly ash bricks, all of this used to be far more expensive than and unavailable because we did not have enough products in the market. And even at that time, the cost difference was only 6.3%. In 2017-18, which is when we built our first building in Gift City, the difference came out to be 22 rupees 57 paise per square feet. This is when the conventional building, the cost of construction was about 2,400 rupees a square feet. Regular cost of construction in Ahmedabad or in Gujarat. This is 1.02%. And this was 2018. And here, this is for a platinum rated building. Pragya is our platinum rated IGBC platinum rated building. It also has a LEED certification. For a platinum rated building, the cost of construction was 1% higher than regular conventional building. If it has to be a gold rated, I can guarantee you it probably would have been cheaper. Like Suresh said, it would probably be cheaper. And this is 2017-18. Let me show you what happened in 2020 and now with the building that we are under construction right now. We are projecting it for a green building, for a platinum rated green building, it to be at best 28 paisa more expensive than conventional building, where we have looked at a construction cost of 2,800 rupees a square feet. And I'm willing to get into the minutest detail into any of these buildings with anybody that wants to look at it.
Superb, superb.
This is at, like I said again, for a platinum rated building. For a gold rated building, it will be cheaper to build green than a conventional building. Now the question is, what about homes? The net savings in homes for a regular, which is not a central air conditioned building, our experience has been, and this is not my building, these are buildings with other developers, and we have data that we are collecting, is 15% savings in energy for a conventional building, for a conventional residential apartment building in 2020, which is now almost 22% in 2021-22. And what is the basic, and there are multiple factors that we could get into, but the biggest difference has been in a green building, has been in a commercial green building, has been the air conditioning. Is the biggest cost. When we used to originally design our buildings, like I said, 2013-14, the tonnage per 150 square feet per ton was the conventional design load that we looked at. Today, the buildings we are designing, it's about 400 to 500 square feet per ton, but the actual usage that we're getting in our buildings is 600. Shapat 5, which is my almost 15-year-old building, we are actually getting an efficiency of 750 square feet per ton.
Wow.
This chiller installed 15 years ago, operating today, and I have elaborate data to prove this to you, 750 square feet per ton. The challenge even today, Sureshji, Hari, is that the consultants are still not designing at these levels. They are still designing at very, very conservative levels, which we really need to change, because this is where the cost of construction comes down. And this again, I'm quoting only air conditioning. We could look at lighting, we could look at water, we could look at other areas, but this is purely the biggest driver of cost in a conventional building, which is what I'm trying to justify. I was very happy to hear Professor Verma say there's a premium to green buildings. This is one of the examples I want to give you. This is a CAM charge invoice that we send to all our occupants in one of my buildings. This is purely for HVAC because we supply chilled water, we measure the BTU readings, and we send them an invoice for the air conditioning charge. With this, we send them a certificate every month saying you have saved 31% on your air conditioning, meaning if you had been in a conventional building, you would have spent 31% more only on air conditioning, which actually amounts to almost 8 to 10 rupees a square feet savings in a 1,000 square feet building. That's a 10 rupees premium on rental in a green building, which is 15 years old, which does not have the latest technology. So this cost, I am willing to bet my bottom dollar, has gone up to at least 10 to 12 rupees a square feet already, probably even higher, especially in a state like Gujarat, where energy costs are so high. Though we are power surplus, we still have very high energy costs. This premium of 10 rupees to 12 rupees a square feet essentially means that on a 50 rupees or 70 rupees square foot rental, I'm actually only paying 60. So which is a huge premium just by virtue of being in a building which is green as opposed to a conventional building.
Please tell them what your energy cost per unit is in Ahmedabad.
Almost 17 rupees a unit.
Oh my, and it's 3 rupees in Goa.
Yeah. I'm stuck. Okay, so again, coming back to what Niranjan mentioned earlier, do we not have a very myopic way of looking at costs? And this is an exercise that, like some of you are aware, IGBC Gujarat is working with Denmark Confederation of Industries to come up a study where we are looking at costs of green buildings, their benefits, and the occupant on the advantage to the occupant, and trying to quantify those. This is one of the studies that the Denmark Association of Architects has done. Look at this graph, it's very interesting. The orange circles are the costs. The cost of the idea, the design, the fabrication, which essentially means construction and operation of the building. That's what the scale is. That's the cost of the business, which the organization incurs for operating a business in an office environment. Look at the benefit. The green dia, the green circle that you see, is actually the value proposition of this organization that it generates for a long, long time. That circle is so big, I obviously can't even get in this circle, this image, but that's the impact. This is what we need to look at if you're looking at cost. What is the value you're creating by that cost, by incurring that cost? And especially if you look at the idea of a green building is absolutely minimal. We just have to think of it in the initial stages when you're designing the building. I have just proven to you that the cost of construction is not higher. Then what is the challenge? Why are we not building more green? Why are we even building? It has to be a bad idea to build non-green today. We are not looking at the advantages, the non-tangible benefits of green at all. And at least in this exercise, in this case presentation, we have not looked at the physical, the emotional, the intellectual, the social impact of the occupants of the building. How does it enhance the quality of life? Even IGBC is looking at now the whole body mind approach in the health and well-being rating. This is an exercise also that we are doing where we are trying to quantify the impact on the occupant of being in a green building. How does it impact his productivity? How does it impact his well-being? How does it impact his efficiency at work? How does it impact the number of sick days? Very interestingly, Dun & Bradstreet did a survey in one of my buildings just before COVID. There was swine flu was almost epidemic then, and the number of sick days taken in their office in a green building which was in Ahmedabad compared to their offices in other buildings in other cities, the number of sick days was 85% lower, just by virtue of being in a good building with better air quality. Now that is an impact directly converted into dollar savings for the company. Essentially, like I said, we have not started looking at the impact on the well-being and the business performance, but they are all very intricately correlated. And the study that we are now doing with DI is now trying to quantify that impact. And hopefully in a year from now, we will have some results on that and probably able to produce another report, which will actually quantify the impact of the well-being and the productivity and the efficiency of the occupant within that building. It's all correlated, as you can see with this. Sustainability, business performance, employee well-being, it's one big circle. We cannot distinguish and separate, and we can't look at these in silos. It's one big correlated circle. There is a very interesting concept that we have all looked at all these years, and I remember in our seminars earlier also we used to talk about people, planet, and profit, that we must do this for the people, we must build green for the planet, we must build green because it makes profitable sense. But somehow there was a fallacy in that. And I've discovered this in my recent learnings, is that we used to look at profit as revenue minus what we did for people, minus what we did for planet. And because it was more like philanthropy, it was almost like our responsibility that we had to pay back to the environment, we had to take care of our people, and that was a cost to us. I think today that entire scenario has changed. Today, the consumer is looking at every company from a very different perspective. If you're not being socially responsible, if you're not being good to the environment, you will not make money. Your products will not sell. So essentially today, societal profit, environmental profit adds up to financial profit. That is the triple bottom line. This has been promoted by Carrie Thomas. We've looked at it. I think every company is now looking at it. If you look at the balance sheets or the annual reports of any leading company in India or anywhere else, the first few pages today occupy their ESG efforts, their sustainability commitments. And the last 2 pages look at the financial numbers and the balance sheet. That is how dramatically the world has changed. And if we don't catch up, we are the ones who will be left behind. But this is the way things will move in the future. There's probably eco-labeling is already very, very popular in the West. But I think very soon you will see that happening even in India, where companies, like I said, consumers are now looking at what is the process for your manufacturer? What is the longevity of that product? Is it circular? Is it recyclable? Is there circular economy involved in your company philosophy? Manufacturing miles, how far is the product coming from? We must start looking at these things. If you look at the label of the product that you use, you will see what are the ingredients and where are these ingredients coming from. This whole working in factory clusters is probably something that is going to start happening very soon, because the impact of transportation must be also mitigated. The fifth and the most important part of the bottom line today is becoming company kindness. Now, this might seem like a strange word to some of us, but kindness is an extremely powerful tool, and it is what will distinguish leaders from followers. I believe very strongly, I remember Dr. Prem Jain always talking about this. I believe his leadership had 3 very basic but extremely important criteria. One was stubbornness, which I think we all need, is that we need to commit ourselves to our goal and then be stubborn about it, to not give up. Passion, something that obviously every leader needs. But the most important thing is courage. And courage, if I remember correctly, and if I have to take example from what Dr. Prem Jain led by, is truly defined as compassion for others. It is not for yourself. Courage is when you do things for others, for the downtrodden, for the last man in the line. And I truly honestly believe that moral courage is what is going to set us apart. Moral courage is rarer than bravery in battle, but is the one quality that will change the world. And it takes courage to have empathy for others, for being kind. And every leader in the world, whether it is corporate or political or whatever, will have to be courageous, will have to be kind, will have to have empathy for others if we really want to change the world. With that, I want to end it here. That's all I have. And I'm more than happy to argue or discuss or debate any point that anybody feels like. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Wonderful. Samir, thank you so much. See, you speak a new generation's language. You know, in the times I did, or let's say Dr. Jain was doing, we spoke a language all right, but we were coming more from the passion and the compassion parts of it, I suppose, and not the hard metrics of costs and of benefits, as you explained, in financial terms as well as other terms that that we were not speaking at that point of time. Dr. T.P. Singh, would you want to share? I have invited you here to see if you want to share some insight on the basis of what Engineer Sinha presented just now. Dr. Singh? Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please. Yes, you are. Please, go on.
Thank you, sir, for this opportunity. I'm really thankful to Mr. Samir to enlighten us and our student also on the aspect of green building, and especially being a professor of finance, I was looking at the numbers thoroughly. And it was a couple of things were surprising for me also, as far as the cost is concerned, and I'm updated that. Definitely, I would like to be in touch with him to see the numbers more, because this is one of the major concern, as Mr. Samir said.
Yes.
That how much extra cost we have to bear and how the recovery of that cost is going to happen. As we have more of the green buildings, definitely save our environment. But being a developing country, it is always economic sustainability or financial feasibility that is always on the top of our mind. So I think from a developing perspective, a country perspective, I think it is very important that whatever is safe for us, for next generation, for environment, should also be financially sustainable.
Sure. Absolutely.
Then only the investments and the investors and the financial outcomes will be favorable for all of us.
Absolutely.
Being developing country, always a focus on financial resources.
You're right.
So that way, I think, sir, it was a really nice talk.
Right.
Happy to see Mr. Sameer, you, and Mr. Suresh also
Right.
on these aspects.
You know, what is interesting is that people like you can be powerful instruments of change. If you produce business managers tomorrow who are inclined to look at these things and say, yes, I want to spend that extra cash flow now in order to gain it back in maybe the next 6 months to or 3 years or whatever, is something that we all need, especially for retrofits. Today, we are only about 5% as buildings which have gone certified in the ways that Sameer explained, or Sureshji explained. But how do we take the other 95% of existing buildings, whether it's in the commercial sector or the residential sector, and make them efficient is one of the questions. The other is beyond what Sameer explained. Yes, Professor Saurabh, Jain, I'll come back to you, both of you. The thing is this, for example, there is one project of about 27 or 30 acres and 500 villas. They need about 300,000 liters of water, and they have no borewell water whatsoever. They're getting about 15,000 liters over 2 borewells in 10 hours of pumping. Absolutely no water. And a plan for the watershed with the net zero plan for surface water harvest and then for other things was devised over the last, say, 9 months, with no more than about 50 lakhs to spend, which money will come back during the construction phase itself of the project. We are managing to get that project to become net zero water. And similarly for energies, Dr. Gayatri mentioned something about how, you know, solar is a challenge at rooftop levels for a building. And it's very easy to convince somebody like that with a very strong business case, much of the kind that Sameer Sinha made. Jain, over to you.
Yeah, sorry I joined in slightly late, but to confirm what was said, first of all, my compliments to Sameer. All his figures are absolutely correct. We've just done one building. Secondly, as far as your question was concerned, retrofit. On Monday, team IGBC visited one of our new tourism buildings complexes, which we are erecting, 30 years old, for a retrofit. They have made an assessment, and I don't think it's going to cost us more. The only place which is going to cost us slightly more, if we are able to have it, is the sewerage disposal or the waste. It's going to be the same, practically the same costing. So what you said, retrofit, we are going ahead to do it, and we are going to get a platinum status for that.
Lovely. Okay.
That was your point, retrofit. What's
absolutely,
happening? So
absolutely.
we are working to next. I've already started conducting liaison with RBI, SBI, 2 of my old clients, to give us an opportunity, a window to come and present how to make their 10, 20, 2, 3, 4 decade old huge complexes into a retrofit.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Prashant,
That's it. Thank you for adding that. Prashant Gawali. I'll come to to Saurabh after that. Prashant.
Hello, sir. I'm Prashant Gawali from RSSSB Mumbai. I must say, Sameer Sinha has done fabulous work. Sameer Sinha sir has done fabulous work till now. So I just wanted to say that, like my take on it, that I feel that emotionally we have to get attached with all kind of human beings. All kind, I mean lower, middle class, higher, so that we can bring awareness towards this. And I would like to say that currently I am working on a project which is like as sir mentioned about commercial project and a green building commercial project and a general building. So the cost of construction, which sir said and which sir proved that it is less. In Mumbai, it is like 3,500 per square feet, and which sir showed it was like 2,500, which was less. So I feel that it's really like we can do this together. Like we just have to spread awareness to all classes of people. And I would like to have a talk with Sameer sir later on after this call, if possible. And that's all I have to say. And it's really interesting to interact with such professionals.
Wonderful. We will enable this whatever conversation with Sameer Sinha after for you as well as others who are for Dr. T.P. Singh and so on. Now, you know, he mentioned at some point of time, and Gayatri, I'm turning to you now. He said that, well, consultants are still on the old mode when it comes to MEP and matters like water and energy and so on. And I've had the same challenge. They do not want to recognize some of those, factors of stubbornness. Unreasonableness is another word I keep using often. We have to be unreasonable. Otherwise, we'll not get what we want. What is your take on this, Gayatri? Because, one can start a building and the stake, the risk of running that building. Maybe Saurabh, Verma, you should speak first on this, and then we will get Gayatri to speak. The challenge is for us to find the right architect and then to find the right service consultants for a building who will be given a brief by us that they will not negotiate. Most often the architect says, well, I don't know about water and energy. These are lesser things. I don't want to be talking about it, right? Architect takes a very unreasonable position. That's the reason I was trying to ask Gayatri, but you can first respond to this, Saurabh, and then we'll go to her.
Sure, great points. And one conclusion which I wanted all the audience to realize from Mr. Sameer Sinha's presentation was that gold-rated building was actually cheaper than a conventional building. It was only in platinum that we had nearly equal cost. So that's one. Second, coming to your point, Dr. Hariharan, definitely, architects have to look. It's a very collaborative work of design. You have to look at different perspectives and include it. I've seen many architects who are great, who have got great sense of economics as well in their, and they have very good understanding of other stakeholder requirements, and it has to be very inclusive. And I'm sure, Ms. Gayatri, who is an expert, she can add more points to it.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Gayatri, I remember in 1994 when I started a project. It was a project of about 8 lakh square feet, I think, at that point of time, over 40 acres. I got one architect first, and then I got a second architect after giving up on the first guy. And you know what he said, the second architect, after some 2 or 3 meetings, he said, look, you don't need an architect. You only need a draftsman, because your brief is not something that any architect will want to work upon. Gayatri, what is your take on such things today after 25, 30 years?
No, actually, I want to just tell you a small little story. The leading one of the tile store when I went, so he tells me, the owner, and it's a very big brand. So the guy tells me, all I need to do is, I don't have anything to do with the customer. I just need to convince that architect. So all I need to say is this, I want to sell this. It is the architect's role and responsibility to somehow convince his client. But the sad part is majority, everybody is an architect without a degree. So today, like any mason can also construct I'm talking of a small scale residence, right? So it's like you have both the sides. It's like architect should definitely have these knowledge. And it's something like, I'm just relating back to the LED lights. When the government has made it mandatory and started like with whatever scheme and it has made it like today, you don't get incandescent bulb anywhere, right?
Right.
So similarly, maybe somewhere government and the professionals should come hand in hand and start trying to push this.
Right. Right, I agree with you. Vasant Kini, would you want to speak? I know you're a complete rank outsider. You're not from this industry, but you're there every time, unfailingly in these meetings. Would you want to say something?
Yeah, I think it's a revelation to me from what Sameer said that the cost of gold rated is almost same or even maybe sub right now, and that platinum is marginally higher. So I think that's something which you all at your various forum, including the IGBC and such, could highlight. I think that awareness for me as a layperson was not there at all. So I would urge you all to highlight that across. Sureshji, I see that you are also there.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we do that. Thank you, Vasant. We do that, but then we are again, I think, not reach. You drive down any city, Vasant, and the rest of us. You see so many of these buildings coming up, which are completely devoid of any of these values, even at the construction stages. And even people who speak to me, they say, well, what are these things that you're talking about? None of these things can happen. I'm currently talking to a builder And I'm trying to persuade him to spend nothing more. I'm actually giving him savings. Then he doesn't believe that it can happen. This is one of the challenges we have. While we have lots of people, of course, thanks to the IGBC and such other industry movements, where there are people who are signing up and who are, doing things of this kind. How do we?
Well, perhaps you could. Sorry to interrupt you, Hari, but perhaps I've been in business development and sales for a long time. Perhaps you could overpromise. Say that there is a saving, and then later on, maybe see if there is no saving. Too bad. It's break even, gentlemen.
Got that.
That's what I have.
Sure, I see that. Samir, what is your take? You're listening to so many of them and various perspectives.
So Hari, I wanted to add to, I think what Vasant was saying, that you're right, there is lack of awareness, but I have a lot of faith in the young generation. And at least in Ahmedabad, I've seen that every developer who's younger than 30 years old is putting up the IGBC logo on their hoardings, they're going for green buildings, whether it is branding for them, whether it is sustainable, right, is the right thing for the environment, it is happening in a big way, at least among the younger developers. The culprits are us. The culprits are the people like us who have created this problem, but are still looking at the whole equation in a very, very different perspective, and are not conscious about or not aware about what the true cost of green is. So I think there is faith. I think the whole ecosystem will change. We have to let the young brigade come in and take over.
Sureshji, over to you.
I want to add two more new dimensions to all that wonderful case done by Samir, and that is regarding he has gone for commercial building with aircon and all that. Recently, IGBC itself, Karthikeyan and his team has done for 3 major residential projects, and there again it's very, very revealing. I just thought it would be very useful because we are roughly about 20 lakhs homes and 2.2 billion square feet of green residential footprint. There is very clearly demonstrated that even for the platinum one, it is not only at par, lower. The second one I want to add for the information of everybody is we are not utilizing the additional incentive that's coming in various states. If you go for a platinum building, you get an additional 15% built up area, a gold another 10% built up area, silver another 5% built up area. In most of the states, we are getting that. So if you're able to factor that potential on the same land to build something more than what normally is provided, it's also getting you an additional return. And even if that was 1% or 2% is more, still a 15% additional built-up area will also an important component. So saving on the operating cost is one, which you've already said, energy cost, water cost, camp charges, and waste cost, etc. The other one is, of course, using technology by which itself bring down. And the third one is additional potential for it to grow. So you have not only the carrot and the stick also available. So stick is where to go for green, carrot is where the incentives are there. And some states have done on the stamp duty for registration, they brought it down. Property tax year on year, they brought it down. So these are very interesting features where states like Tamil, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, they don't have FSI, but they have, and Kerala is the one where FSI is already very high. So they are giving it on stamp duty 20% less and the property tax year on year. But you have to prove it year on year that you continue to maintain, not for the sake of green certification. I do that as a platinum. Later on, I don't do anything, but you have to maintain that. And therefore, you're able to get that benefit also. Maybe there's a new dimension which all our delegates 100 odd delegates who are watching this should know about that.
Right. Dr. Raval, you always have something very sage to say. And I'm very conscious of the fact that, Ravalji, you have raised hands anyway. You could speak. You could speak, Ravalji.
Thanks a lot for the opportunity. And wonderful to listen to the stalwarts in the subject. My basic concerns are 3. First is water, and a lot of green claims have come on the subject. Water, as we know, H2O is just a mass and therefore a cost. The living water, known as activated water, is H3O, which is the free energy and the only green energy that we can think of. Number two, we are fast running out of sand. Adding one concrete New York on the planet every year is not green. And quarry dust is taken as a replacement. But nobody talks about the methylene blue test for the quarry dust, even for 1 CFT. I'm not talking about tons of that. So, as the concrete should go through cube test, the quarry dust should go through methylene blue test. I don't know if that is mentioned in our textbooks or talked about in the design schools.
Right.
And repeated pandemics, my third point, is a proof of sewage illiteracy with unknown consequences and unfathomable cost. And profit is a withdrawal of resources from the regenerative path. We are all following a linear path, talking about sustainability. In fact, it will come only from the regenerative path. Thank you.
Thank you. Samir, let me extend what Ravalji is talking about. You take, let us say, a tertiary water treatment plant that you put up in a building. Typically, we go with some L1, L2, L3. We put up some plant there, which takes both black water and gray water together. And then we will talk about all the things that we are doing in terms of cost, as well as, co-benefits of green, etc. Ravalji has been pointing out again and again in many fora that there is something seriously wrong with all of us if we think that black water and gray water can be mixed and used in a tertiary water plant, as most of the water treatment technologies will offer you today, MBR, MBBR, SBR, and all that nonsense, right? Now, what he is effectively saying is somewhere engineers, and you're one, engineers and architects have not brought a good constructive intersect with the science of water. They don't understand it. They only go with some water treatment fellow and some contract and tender. Samir.
The reason for that, Hari, and I totally agree with what Muni Ravalji said, is that in our country and in most of the world, air and water is free. We don't pay for it. And that is the biggest problem. Land we pay for. So we know how much we should build, what is the cost, and we are cautious about it. Water is free. And if water is free, we will continue to waste water and we will continue to disregard it the way we've always done for years. The STP is become such a sham that there are actually agencies that will come in and install an STP in a building and take it away after the building use permission is granted. And the reason for that, is very, very interesting, is that at least even in Gujarat, to run an STP, you need a commercial connection from the utility company. No society or RWA is willing to spend that money 5 years down the road to spend an extra cost to treat the water. So they do not operate the STP. The fact remains that after 5 years, the STP becomes defunct. The water is let out without filtering, and it is going, and there is no punitive damage to it. There's nobody monitoring it because the government does not have the resources to do this.
It's a story everywhere.
Control this if there's total utilization. The challenge we face, even in some of the large communities we have built, is that we're able to filter the water, we're able to treat it, but where do we discharge it? The storm sewer is not in place, and there is no system. So in spite of using all the water that we use for landscaping, we have to actually let it out in the fields.
True.
Where there is no utilization of the water, which is such a waste.
Sureshji, it is criminal. You're right. It is criminal, Sureshji. But what is happening is no more than 5% of STPs in the entire residential apartment sector in Bangalore, 20,000 plus apartments, has functional STPs.
True.
All of them have done it for mandatory, checkbox listing and ticking for their occupancy certificates and so on.
So
yes, Ravalji. Yes, Ravalji.
Let me add to this. Let me add. This is why I insist that we will continue to do some amount of greenwashing if we only follow regulation, if we only follow compliance, if we only follow the building codes. It has to make perfect economic sense for any of us to do anything which is be viable.
Sure.
If water is expensive, we will treat it like gold. If it is not, we will insult it. And similarly, everything else has to make perfect economic sense. Sustainability is not about what, it is about how. And that can only happen if it makes economic sense.
Sir, just a minute. I am talking at global level, number one. And talking about design schools, do they include the principals? Forget about the agencies and all that. The only point is sewage is a biological system. And in design school, biology is taken as a symmetry or aesthetics, beauty. That's not nature is meant for. How much colon ecology is taught in the design school? Leave aside the contractors and agencies or passing authorities. Thank you.
I got that. Niranjan, I think you want to add something.
Yeah, since so much has been spoken on water, I'd like to add another dimension in it. None of our so-called platinum rated buildings are water positive. And it's not possible because of the small land footprint that they have. Their consumption is more than what they can harvest. Therefore, there are some very simple opportunities if our industry becomes a little extroverted. Right now, we are very, very introverted. We spend a lot of money on the building, and there's a lot of wastage also in the building. And I'll always like to repeat TIFAX data that for every square meter, we generate 40 to 60 kgs of construction debris in our country, number one. So I'm coming back to water. So how does one building become water positive? Very cost-effective method. Look 30, 40 kilometers away from the city, and there are a whole lot of marginalized farmers on whose land you can make farm ponds which cost only 20,000 rupees. If we make these farm ponds, depending on the size of your project, in 10 or 15 farmers' land, you work towards being water positive and you're drought proofing them, because if they stop growing food, we are not going to get food. And we can see this example. Nature has slapped us left, right, and center this year, starting from California to China. The Klamath River Dam is likely to be decommissioned as per reports that I've read in USA. France was not able to operate its nuclear power plant because the Seine is dry.
Yeah. Sure.
The river Po dried up. And in Abu Dhabi, they are trying to extract water from the clouds, 4% of their water requirement. And then the same article says that they give 147 gallons of water per person per day. I mean, where is the focus on demand side management? It's all on supply side management. And then look at the Yangtze River. The mighty Yangtze River was dry, and that has disrupted the climate, the supply chain. So are we reading the signals seriously, or it's just, in the morning, have a cup of tea, read this and think it's not going to happen to us? But that's the point that I want to make.
Absolutely, we are not reading. So any of you who are senior faculty here, do you want to respond to what Dr. Raval said about how our students in engineering or in architecture need to be not just sensitized, but taught the science of water at the very basic levels? Anyone here as faculty who wants to respond to what Ravalji said? No. Yes? Someone here? Okay. All right. Doesn't seem to be. Dr. Singh, do you want to say something? Yeah. Okay, Nandita, please.
Yes, sir. I second the thought. Water is freely available. So how much ever you try to tell people, they are not taking it that really are we feeling that scarcity in our city? That is the question mark for everybody. The awareness is not there. Somebody somewhere, they say it's like out of Karnataka, out of Bangalore, there is a short of water. Kolar, very
I agree
close.
with you. I'm only saying in your own college, to your own students of urban planning, regional and environment planning, as well as architecture.
Yeah.
How do you have not a course, but a program of, say, I don't know how many hours, where some few sessions on this whole business of how you treat water? or how you plan for energy, for instance, some of the challenges and concerns that you are addressing, Nandita. How do you do that?
Actually, there is a course in the curriculum itself, water resource management.
Correct.
We have that subject as elective, and they'll be taking up exam also. I am teaching them actually.
Okay.
We are talking about the kind of water resources we have, how we can recycle, reuse, treat it, everything. So now kids are getting that awareness. Are we really getting the shot? How to clean it? How to bring awareness to people? Talk to them and say like, is it the water we use is worth only using for one time?
Right. Yeah. Well, I got that. I got that. Using water once only. You have said something very interesting. We need to come back to that. I'll first request Saurabh to speak, and then these two ladies here, Beneath and Sarika Agarwal. First, Saurabh. Go on.
Yeah. Okay. So on water, in our course, we definitely have water management techniques, saving techniques, how to reduce demand, water efficiency. Those things are being taught in MBA and BBA programs.
Okay.
But coming to the point, of Mr. Sameer, where he said, water has no cost. I think also in our regulations, like air pollution is now a big issue, and we see many regulations which are being proposed and coming up. I think instead of cost, one more area we need to look at is, if we are wasting water, there has to be regulations around it.
Sure, there is,
and it has to be
Sir,
taken care.
We do have regulations in cities like Pune, Bangalore, and so on, but there's no compliance, and we don't know how to police it. I mean, I'm not even talking about governing it, but you have a point there that we must see how we can do that. Beneath Chandra, please.
Good afternoon, all. It's a very good session. The way we are teaching, I'm a landscape architect. So my story starts with water, and we map watershed in every single site before starting any building, and then where to put your building. Your roof become a terrace garden to intercept rain. So that will also reduce the temperature for your solar panels that operates maximum in 25 to 30 degrees centigrade rather than 60 degrees centigrade at Rajasthan. And then recent our discussion we have come up with, we are only drinking 8 liters of water LPCD, drinking and cooking. 35 liters we require for bathing, cooking, drinking, and washing our clothes. 36 liters we are using for flushing, and rest we are using for washing our cars or
when you invite a new graduate to join your practice, what are the challenges you find in what they bring to your table, and how much induction and training do you do? Because if I am somebody like, say, Sinha, and I want to employ, or I'm working in your practice, I need people who already understand this in a way that you are able to persuade your clients. Is that right, Beneath?
Yes, yes.
And what is your challenge, therefore, in recruitment? Do you have a challenge at all in recruiting people who know some bits on sustainability?
Because I am teaching and also preparing.
Lovely.
Across means I am working cross-dimensional like ASHRAE, IPA. Right. So we communicate and dialogue between fire safety or things. So I know the ground reality and the challenges. So we work on the ground root side. For example, now we are working with a water mela with water enthusiasts. We just concluded with normal people to outreach. There I got to meet with Tarun Bharat Sangh and the Waterman of India.
That's and then we connect. Water. Yeah, no. See, water is only one aspect of all of these things. I take your point, and what we all know what many of these organizations are. Sarika Agarwal, please, over to you now.
Yeah. So as far as water management,
no, not water. Sorry, in terms of what Samit Sinha presented, unfortunately, you couldn't be there. I'll put it like this to you. What is your perception? Do green buildings cost more at all? Do you believe that they cost more? First, as a teacher, And as someone who is presiding over these things in your school.
No. So I would say that the green building doesn't cost more. Green buildings always cost less if we are considering all the aspects of water management and electrical energy management and the costing in terms of the materials and all. So I would say, and as a teacher, that I have been teaching this sustainable architecture and the green buildings for almost last 6 to 7 years. I had been teaching this subject, and I have realized myself that it is a myth that the people say that green building costs more. It is not like that. It's all depends upon how you manage and how you suggest and what kind of materials and the overall costing you develop for that particular building. That is one aspect. Another aspect, when we were talking about water and all. So yes, in the curriculum, right from the first year, we teach that water cycle, hydrological cycle, which is a part of environmental sciences subject, which is a mandatory subject. And there are many other subjects, and as an elective, we all are actually teaching this water management also. The more important thing is in terms of sensitizing to the students and even to any of the person, not only the students of architecture, but every person, where they should be able to understand the water footprint. Nobody understands what is water footprint. So once people start realizing about the water footprint and start calculating that,
not just
water mixing is
but
done.
Energy footprint also, or the green footprint itself.
Yeah. So it should be done at that level also. Ki we are considering, like we are considering energy, we should be considering about water also, which is still at a very nascent stage. I myself attended some of the capacity building programs under NIUA, where we talked about the river sensitive master plans also. So where we were talking about the planning aspect with respect to water and how we can sensitize the people regarding the rivers, which is again an water aspect.
I know water is important because it's the worst crisis that India has got. We are top of the heap. Sameer Sinha, it's over to you now. We have very few minutes left now. You heard as many people talk, and I think essentially what is coming across is expertise at some small levels is one thing, but how do we disseminate this information across the country to all people, individual home builders to somebody else, is the big challenge. Over to you on whatever you want to say in response to all that you've heard so far.
Yeah, I think it's been a very interesting discussion. 2 points that I want to, 2 or 3 points that I want to make. One is, of course, yes, you are right, that we still continue to preach to the choir. I think most of the sessions that we have, we are still talking to people who are actually already converted or are inclined to believe what we are saying. I think we need to go out to the real world and target them and try to educate them, because it is such a frustrating experience if we understand that there's a benefit, understand it makes economic sense, we understand that it is the right thing to do, and it makes no sense to not do green. And yet every day you have this question of the cost of green, is it more? So that's one big challenge we must agree to address. But to take forward the question that Professor Agarwal was talking about, are we talking about sustainability only and teaching that to our students, or are we also looking at life cycle cost, the cost of operating a building? Unfortunately, in our country, we still have the model of everybody wants to buy property and there's not enough leasing models. So the Resident Welfare Association does not have a major role to play in our economy, but they are sitting on large pools of money. And I keep saying this to every property management company, to all the JLLs and the Knight Franks of the country. Why can't we have a model where we are able to approach these RWAs and convert their existing buildings into green buildings and give them money at the end of the year, saying you have saved 30%, 20%, 25% per year just by virtue of taking the building and converting into a sustainable building. There's a huge market for that. 80-90% of the buildings that we have are existing buildings. The new ones will be easier to convert to green. The existing lot of buildings is something that, as IGBC and as sustainability movement, if we really want to make an impact to the real people, we will have to go to them and try and see if we can save them money. And it's money to be saved. So that is one area that I have as a thought for the future that we need to target. But besides that, that's it. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Suresh ji, last word from you, maybe another 2-3 minutes. You have to unmute, please. You have to unmute. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had a wonderful round of discussion. I think all the points have been well brought out from what it was historically. We have seen that over the years, we are able to get, as a result of design, technology, on all issues, we can bring down the cost at par, number one. Number two, add on the cost on the operating cost, the saving that comes over there also makes it as much cheaper. And then get on the incentive component also on for going green will also provide you the right level of want to go for increasingly going for the green building component. So you have various ways that you can go on, but at least I'm happy that the myth has been removed that, and which is also accepted most speakers there, how it's coming over there. Only one area which we have still not done, even though it's not the main topic, a lot of discussion took place on water, in between water and wastewater. It's good, it's equally an important component of green there. But in a situation where some states want to be popular and populist and want to give water free, by saying they'll give free water, they will not be able to give water at all. So that's a message which I should send across. Right. But we should take care of water management and the savings, efficiency in water also as an important component, whether you price it or non-price it or whatever. So this is a good message, and credit should go to Samir for the excellent setting and presentation that he has done about 10 years back, 5 years back, and now the way in which the prices have come down with actual thing, and physically also it showed not only come down, but also the time or tonnage of air conditioning increasing, the area increasing for the same tonnage, and by which the overall the air conditioning tonnage will go down, water sizing will go down, the LED light will go down. And a very interesting one. I think we have to disseminate this in a very large way, not only the commercial project, but a residential project also available. We should also do something for a school project, a hospital project, a hotel project. So across asset classes, we'll be able to show that going green does not cost much and makes sound business sense to go for it.
So, Rahulji, you have raised hands again. You want to say something before we close? Rahulji?
In my view, the green word can be conveyed in just one sentence. Pricing and cost and waste and crisis. Waste is a proof of abundance. So either we have wastewater or we have water crisis. We'll have to fix this.
Sure.
The only way, somebody who is rich, Bill Gates and other Ambanis and Adanis, they can pay for the whole world water.
Sure.
Does it mean we cannot ask them what we are doing with that water? They would say, yes, we have paid for it. It's not your business.
Fair enough.
So my point to Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Ambani, Adanis, and everybody, you can buy as much water as your pocket permits.
Or whatever, the water.
Not a drop leaves your premise, period.
Got it. Okay, point taken. Two things emerge to you all who are faculty first and students. One is, how do we take, as Samir said, this message of doing things ecologically while we are economically sensible too, to the real world of all those people who are outside of our community of believers. That's the first. The second thing that's coming through is, I have to mute him. Yeah. Okay. The second one that is coming through is, we have only about 5% of all these wonderful buildings which are certified green. To all of you faculty, we have no more than, say, about 40% of the buildings that we will have by 2035, 2037. How do your students, how do all these budding engineers and architects become so responsible that this will be default? There is no such thing as a green beyond conventional. This has to be default, by default. These are the two messages I think this afternoon's wonderful presentation from Samir Sinha has brought to us. This brings to close, I think, the 26th edition of this lecture series. We have had about 34 people, because in some cases we have had 2 people presenting, and today it was only Samir Sinha. Lovely having you, Samir. Thank you for accepting so readily when I asked you. And there we are, past another milestone. Piles, Jain, you want to say hello and thank you to the rest of us here.
Thank you. Thank you. That was lovely. Thank you very much. Sorry, I mean, I was just listening. I can't contribute much to this, but it was very informative, very insightful. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Samir. Thank you, Sureshji. I kept hearing your inputs everywhere, which was lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Verma. was lovely. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, all of you students, for being here today. Good afternoon to all of you, and a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Payal. Thank you, Hari.
Thank you.
Yatin.
Thank you so much.
Yatin, you are the hero in all of these things, unsung. Wonderful. Thank you for all your
Yes,
support.
thank you, Yatin. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Thanks, Jain, Bryce. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Vasant.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Vasant. Yeah. Bye. Bye. But thank you, Nandita.